my name mentioned in the book?
Yeah, you're in there. Wait, here it is. Disco Inferno loses to the Lion Tamer, Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling through it now.
I want to know.
I don't think you've ever beat him,
match
Disco. It looks like you lost every match with Chris. That's what this book says, anyway.
Does it really?
I think so, from what I've seen so far.
Well, too bad we never had a real one. So I would have took him.
Match has star ratings, which like I get from like his WWE matches and stuff. But I want to know how the star ratings of a match in front of 400 people in Mexico was determined, and like where that came from.
Well,
Was it on
because you know,
TV? Is he the one rating the matches?
I think he rates.
Where is he?
Chris,
Get him on here. We got to talk.
Chris rates.
This.
Chris rates the matches. Yeah,
he rates his own matches.
it's his ratings that he kept in his match notebook. Yeah.
well, I think if you had a good match or not. You can rate your own match. You and me had the best match every night.
You know what the
remember
funniest
back
thing is?
in the day? If you remember back in the day, Disco, when we had the polling backstage and all that, remember?
Yeah.
You usually had the best match, or I had the best match. That's how it always turned out.
Right. It was always whoever's match came back first.
Right.
It always had the best. So, but the funniest thing today, but because all the matches are so busy, it's right. It's that if you miss a spot in a match, that's not like a big deal. Remember back when we used to miss a spot in the match? You'd be like, Jesus Christ. If you come back afterwards, you'd be like, fuck, man. That's all you cared about. Like, the match could have been great. If you missed one spot, you like beat yourself up over. You'd be like, God almighty, you're upset. You know, but then you thought, I guess it was good anyway. Like the crowd did. You go, well, no, it didn't matter. The people didn't care. That's what you'd say to the guys.
Notice.
But everybody always, just across the board, if guys missed a spot, they'd come back from the match and they would be pissed and complain about goofing up. And you'd always say, don't worry about it. It was just the people didn't care. You know, that was industry wide.
Joe,
now these people miss spots left and right. They hug afterwards.
Let me introduce this segment. Yo, we're back with Disco's favorite segment of the show, the Mass Republic Minute. What it do, Kevin? Boom.
How's it going?
What's up?
Well, it's supposed to be the Mass Republic Minute featuring Chris Jericho, but he's a few minutes late.
So we're starting anyway, right?
He's putting us in our place, yeah.
Well, he's trying to no. Here's what he's trying to do, okay? He's trying to big league us. Like, hey, you guys can wait out. You know, he's trying to make us like we're in the ring, right? And he's still in the locker room and making that. And they go, Chris, you're up. He's like, I make him wait.
Is his music playing? His music's playing for the second time?
Not yet.
Not yet. He's just saying, don't play the. You know, he's calling the shots and everything and all that stuff. So there might be a little heat when he finally does come on for making us wait. But you're his advocate. Apparently, in this situation, Mr. Kleinrock. So I'm assuming you're taking responsibility. Why is he not here yet?
I suppose it is the mask. Well, because
you're here to promote something together, right?
I got the book.
Okay.
Here we go. Right.
What's the name of the book? Complete. Wait, time out. Whoa. Time out. What's the name of the book?
The Complete List of Jericho.
Yes.
Okay. Who is the first person? Okay, that came up with the concept of list for the Jericho character?
I recall.
I'm not sure.
Speaking,
if I recall, it was the Disco Inferno, which gave him the concept of the list of 1,004 holds to be read in the thing. Now he's actually used my intellectual property.
He's monetizing
and plastered it on the book to sell for probably that'll probably make the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he's using all of my creative input on this.
Well, let me ask you a question though, because before he even comes on, so and there he is.
There he is. So you okay?
Here.
We're just talking about your little book over
here.
Yeah,
of course we're going to talk about that. First of all, what is the reason for your truancy?
Well, Feeney didn't have me a link at 4:01, so I fucked off for a bit, and then I came back and the link was here. So it's not my truancy. I think JoJo realized that Konnan was here and frickin' Kleinrock and thought we were on Mexican time.
Understandable. I got it right off the bat. We just discussed right before you came on that the name of your book is what?
You know what it is. You don't need me to tell
Read it again. Read it again.
Have Kleinrock read it. Right.
The complete quote unquote list of Jericho. Okay.
Right.
Where did the original concept of the list come from?
Well, I don't know. So you're kind of splitting hairs here because it was the man of 1,004 holds.
Right, and
which would be on a piece of paper in order. That
which would be called a list.
Well,
it
could be called a lexicon.
But you referred to it on television as the list of 1,004 holds, which people to this day still remember and look at as one of your very first, one of the things that puts you on the map and elevated your career. To the point now that here we are 20-something years later, and that concept is held true all this time, that you've decided to use it in a book, to make millions, to make however much you're going to make off this. It's going on the New York Times bestseller list, and you're using it from a guy that you've slandered in your books in the past, referred to me as a dweeb.
On the cruise.
Other good, a lot of things. So it's like I think that this
and your Hall of Famer dad, all around nice guy, the babyface assassin, also called him a twerp and a punk, which in the 1940s would have led to fisticuffs.
Well, it's funny though. I forgot what show I was on because I forgot in Keeping It 100, you got to let Disco talk for 22 minutes before you get a fucking word twice.
Right.
So,
so you guys got.
No, here's the best part, Jericho. Guess who we're trying to get? Guess who we're trying to get on the show? The original godfather of the Power Talk, Lex Luger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Put him with me.
I might just leave the show. Right.
There was a show. I'm sure you guys did it in the 90s based out of Chicago. It was called Man Cow. You guys remember the Man Cow?
Yeah, of course remember Man Cow. Yeah,
that was like this show times 1,000. You could not get a fucking word in edgewise. You would sit there for 30 minutes. They wouldn't even acknowledge your existence. The first 3 times they did the show, I didn't even get to say anything. So then you realize you just got to jump in, push people out of the way, and basically do what Disco does constantly.
Didn't you do something with him in Chicago? One of the shows. I know he's backstage and he did something on the shows.
Not with me. That was who would do the Bubba the Love? You would do those type of things. Bubba the Love Sponge versus Disco, Man Cow versus Disco.
Man Cow wrestled.
Do jobs for the mascots and stuff.
Man Cow wrestled
for Matt Hardy's son also.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Maxell.
Exactly. He's still got it. He's got it coming to him though. I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Man Cow wrestled Jimmy Hart on pay-per-view.
Oh. Who did? Okay. Oh, Man Cow did.
Let me ask you a question, Jericho. Which of these names has more heat with you from the Hardy estate? Bartholomew, Wolfgang, or Maxell?
Bartholomew.
Because everybody's just going to call him Bart.
Yeah,
Barty.
Right?
He's trying to get Barty over, but that's going straight to Bart. He'll be Bart Simpson in elementary school when he grows
Bart
up.
the fart.
Bart Hardy. It's gonna be. I can think of a cowboy hat. It's a cowboy boots.
Cute kids, though. I appreciate the originality in the names, but you got to always think about that when you grow up because kids will rhyme your name with something that's bad. I mean, Chris Piss was my nickname for many years, just because it rhymes, right?
Yeah,
right.
Feeny weenie.
And you were a notorious bedwetter at one time.
Well, and still am.
Still are.
Let me ask you a question. How long did you write these books? Like when you
so let's just jump right into this. This is different from every other book I've ever read because this literally contains a list of every single match I ever had in my career. Because when I first started, I asked Keith Hart on the first day of wrestling school, "How many matches have you had?" And he said, "That's a stupid question. Nobody ever asks those types of questions." And then he then said, "Take a backdrop gearbox," and threw me off the ropes and gave me a backdrop where I landed on my feet because I didn't know any better. And then he stretched the shit out of me. Anyways, after I recovered from a beating, I decided if I ever have a match, I'm going to write it down. And whether I have 10 matches or 10,000, I'm going to keep a record of it. So I started on October 2nd, 1990. And I kept a match of every single. I kept a list of every single match that I ever had. As a matter of fact, as I open it up here, May 9th, 1998, match number 858, Wichita, Kansas, Disco Inferno in front of 4,000 people. I got paid $466, and I gave it 3 stars.
Wait, is that all the detail? Wait, do you have the match against me and you in Salina, Kansas? That had a lot of moving parts in it.
As a matter of fact, it's right before it, 8:57, May 8th, 1998.
You should have notes on this.
Salina, Kansas. I do. They're right here. I'm reading it to you.
Let's read that because this is
Salina, Kansas. I won with the Lion Tamer. There was a crowd of approximately 5,000. Once again, paid $466. I also gave that 3 stars. So we had our house show down pat which was
Now, would you
easy-
sometimes-
but what about
Chris.
that specific match? If you were doing copious notes like Frankie Kazarian does, I've seen
No,
Frankie
no.
Kazarian- Frankie Kazarian
Frankie,
takes
no one has
copious
ever-
notes. Okay, but listen to this. Okay, if you would have that match. First of all, what happened in the match? You go out, you cut a vicious heel promo, and the crowd's live. I mean, this is a good 4,000 people in a small building.
Well, no, it was. It was a good 5,000 people, according to my copious notes. You dipshit.
Okay, I go out for my ring entrance. I do my finger point. I slip and I fall right on my ass in front of everybody after you cut a heel promo. Now everybody's laughing at me, and I'm supposed to be the babyface. We go in the match, and we invented a spot by accident because I screwed up. We do a tackle, headlock, tackle, drop down, hip toss. When I drop down and Chris goes to jump over me, I start getting up too fast. I trip you. You take a face bump, and you're going so fast, you literally slide like a baseball slide under the top rope, out of the ring, right to the floor. The people popped huge for it. Remember that? Like after that, we said, "Hey, we got to keep doing that spot."
But check this out. Here's the funny thing, and this is why it's so cool to have this list. And nobody's ever done this to the extent that I have. We worked each other 5 days in a row: May 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So anybody that thinks that it's tough working with Disco Inferno, I did it 5 matches in a row. So all you guys can go fuck your ass because I did it more than any of you guys did.
They were all 3-star matches too, though.
All 3-star matches right down the board. So that tells me that was always kind of like it was a good match. I'll give it 3 stars. These are my ratings. These aren't like Meltzer ratings or anything like that.
But these were good matches with the hot crowd too. So that should add a bonus too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then here's another one for you though. On December 27th, 1998, match number 945 at Starrcade. I submitted to Konnan in Washington, D.C. in front of 10,000 people. My payoff was $684. I gave that one 2.5 stars.
Why?
Let me ask you a question.
What shitty booking that was.
Let me ask you a question. Jericho, are there certain matches where you might have put comments and stuff like that, or it was just always date, crowd size, and stars?
It was always date, crowd size, stars, and then for the first probably 6 or 7, or probably first 8 or 9 years, I kept track of the money that I made as well. There you go, right there. Look at that. Look at that picture. That's the basically the first night I ever met Konnan at the Box of Lucha Awards in Mexico City, December of '93. How crazy is that, Konnan? Have you ever seen that picture before?
No, that is crazy, bro.
So what I did was after I decided to put this out as a book, I didn't want it to just be a book of just all of these lists. So I came up with a bunch of top 10 lists. I got a bunch of luminaries, yourself included, Konnan, to give their thoughts on my career, their top 10 lists, favorite matches, etc. And then I went to the dreaded storage unit and went through all of these boxes to find pictures like the one you just saw, pictures no one has ever seen before. Because back in those days, as crazy as it might sound for people now, there was no phone. So if you were going on the road, I would take a camera and actually take pictures, and then you would get photo prints. Right. So I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures from these days in Mexico, Japan, Germany, early Canada that no one had ever seen before. So I kind of put it all together. It's almost like a history book because it's from a 30-year time span and how much the business has changed since 1990 till now. And the first 6 years or so with all of these notes from all the countries, I said, you won't find them online because you can find a lot of this stuff from the last 15, 20 years on cagematch.com. All those match listings are there. All of this stuff from Mexico and all these other places, you will never find anywhere else. So it almost is like a history book of this 30-year span of what wrestling was and what it is now.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I found so, for my own entertainment was the Mexico section, was looking at, the list of the matches. Also, I mean, the history of the payoff is so intriguing, right? And it looks like, throughout Mexico, it really kind of varied a lot city by city. It wasn't necessarily who you were in the ring with that night, and it wasn't necessarily so much necessarily where it was in the card, but it seemed like there was a real big variance from the payoffs in the different cities, which I thought was really fascinating.
Well, how this worked, and Konnan can back me up on this, is I got paid weekly by Paco Alonso for CMLL, and that would be for 4 matches a week. So if I was making, let's say, I don't know, $1,000, those matches would be $250 no matter what. Then you would get sent to the outposts, if on a Tuesday night in Cuernavaca or something, and then the promoter would basically pay you through the office. And I'm sure the office made as much as I did off of it, but then you would get, okay, here's $150. Here's $300. Sometimes if you were going really far, they'd pay you $500 because they were looking for names.
So did you ever work in Memphis?
Never worked in Memphis, but we're talking Mexico right now. Yeah. But if you
no, let's say similar.
So if I had that $1,000 from Paco and then worked another 3-4 matches and added another 1,000, there's a $2,000 week right there. And at 23 years old with no expenses, that was good money. Still is good money, but it was really good money.
Let me ask you a question. Out of all the promotions that you've been to, what was like the worst territory?
It's hard to say. Like Mexico was great in the big leagues, like working all the shows for Paco. But then you'd go to Aragon, the home of Phoenix.
Arena Aragon.
And it would be just this fucking little ghetto area of Mexico City. And it'd be really scary because, once again, I'm not traveling with anybody else. I'm by myself. You would take the bus. If Aragon's in Mexico City, right, Carlos, or is it outside?
Right outside of Mexico City. The worst part was the fucking toilets.
Right,
none of them worked. Everybody was shitting in a broken toilet. The guy was taking a shower right in front of you out of a hose.
Doors open, guys shitting on the toilet, putting together matches, and then they'd wipe their ass and put the toilet paper beside the toilet.
Yeah,
not even in it. So there'd be this shit paper here, and guys were dude, I don't have to go over my high spot right now. I'm fine. I'll be done in 5 minutes.
Side of the ring, Mexican wrestling.
It really is, right. So if you're looking for just the stuff that I'm thankful that we lived through it. Mexico is a lot of that because it's still Mexico. It's fucking the Wild West in a lot of ways. Yeah. So that one was kind of one of those ones where it was a really, really shady.
Did you ever work
really
for
scary.
Stampede?
I never worked Stampede.
That was a hard territory, bro.
Well, and I always wanted to, but they closed down 6 months before I started. So I had all the remnants of Stampede, working in bowling alleys and those sort of things. But, going to other countries is always a little bit of a trip. Hamburg was weird, but it was the same city every night. So at least you'd have your little routine. But you were basically living in flop houses. And we didn't know any better because you're fucking 22 years old working in Germany. How cool is this? Right. Meanwhile, I'm staying in a hotel that's so shitty that if you want to bring a girl over, you have to put her over your shoulder and walk up the stairs because there's an electric eye that beeps. And if you have a visitor in your room, you have to pay an extra 40 Deutschmarks. And I couldn't afford that. So I would literally put the chick over my shoulder and tell her to be quiet and just walk up the steps in one fell swoop. So, and then you'd piss in the sink because you have a sink there, but you don't have a bathroom for your own, so you got to make do. But all those things are part of kind of the history of paying your dues. Yeah. And once again, that's why I'm so glad that I have so much of it encapsulated in this book because we can remember it, but I can actually go back and tell you dates and moments, and then like you just said, Disco, you think of Salina, Kansas, and all these other memories come back. So. Here's
cool. The weirdest thing I've noticed since doing these podcasts, but you've got a history of doing them, right? It's people say they send in emails and they go, hey, can you tell us some stories about so-and-so? And I off the top of your head, you can't think of any stories. But when you get it hey, you remember the time when this happened? And you kind of zoom in and say, geez, I do remember a lot of stuff. I do remember. But it's just ask me well, hey, you got any good Jericho stories? It's you're in a Braveheart. It's oh, do you have the story about Jericho throwing the pizza at the guys in Peoria, Illinois? It's oh yeah, I got that story.
The cops.
But it's you remember when you're given a specific thing to remember, and it triggers your memory sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. This spurs your memory. So Konnan, give me a number between, I don't know, 100 and 250. Just pick a number between 100 and 250.
Yeah, 200.
Okay, so this is the Mexico year. So I just want to show you some a random match that I might have had. So match number 200 was Mexico City, August 28th, 1993, a 6-man with Vampiro and Perroth Jr. versus Gladiador, Dr. Wagner, and Grand Marcus Jr. 3 stars.
Wow. Wait, how many of those guys that you worked against ended up being big main eventers for a long time?
Well, the thing was, a lot of them were main event. Those guys were called El Ola Lilo, right?
No,
Lilo.
La Ola Blanca,
Ola Blanca.
What is that, the white
which is
what?
White Wave.
the White Wave.
The White Wave.
So they all dressed in white, and this was kind of
Right.
the early days
How's
of
it
Dr. Wagner Jr. before he became the heavyweight champion. And their trio was they were the White Wave, and they all wore white. And Wagner was always great, and Gladiator was okay, and Marcus was just he was a great guy, super nice, but just a big kind of fat guy and gold tooth. And
But he wasn't as good as the original Gran Marcos. He was Gran Marcos Jr.
Junior.
Bro,
Gotcha.
I wrestled the original Gran Marcos, and he was a humongous guy, a tremendous dick. But back then when you first broke into the business, when we broke into, every guy was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
They were just beating you up, testing you, stretching you. Let's see what you got. You know what I'm saying? And Marcus was a fucking big old boy that he could take it to you. And I remember the first time I wrestled him, bro, he slapped me as hard as he could in my back. And Rey Mysterio Sr. goes, bro, if you don't give it back to him, you're going to be a little bitch this whole tour. And I hit him as hard as I could. He turned around, hit me back. I hit him, and I got respect. You know what I'm saying?
See, but you had to do that. Like there were certain guys, like for me, like Dandy was just great. He always took care of me, showed me around. Atlantis was always nice, but then as soon as there was a crowd of other Mexican guys, he would turn on me and start, insulting me. A guy like Bestia Salvaje, who was a great worker, he wouldn't give you nothing unless you took it at first. Satanico was a fucking asshole. All these types of guys. Emilio Charles Jr., he was kind of in the middle, but once you earned his respect, he was amazing. Yeah. But you had to earn the respect of these guys. Right. And a lot of reason why I got it was because Negro Casas really took a liking to me because we always were having good matches. He understood that I had passion for this. I wasn't just some fucking blonde guy from Canada coming in and trying to make easy money. And once Negro gave me the stamp of approval, then the other guys slowly followed. But it was hard. Like Satanico, Pirata Morgan, those guys.
Right.
Massacre. Like Massacre was the fucking worst. What an asshole.
How often did you have to give it back in there?
In the early days, working for Elizondo in Monterrey, which was kind of the offshoot, that would be kind of like the Ring of Honor if EMLL was AEW, for example. So those guys were really bad. There was a guy
because that's more the indies. So they're even worse.
Oh, so the guys that try to take it.
Very little professionalism there. Yeah.
Konnan, what does sanguinario mean? Bloody?
Bloody, yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy called Sanguinario.
Bro, you're not gonna believe this. Have you seen this kid called what's his name? Gino Medina? What's his name, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right. Gino Medina.
Have you seen Gino Medina?
No.
Good looking Mexican kid. I think he's an MLW right now. That's Sanguinario's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. His name was Luis was his name.
Yeah.
But you had to earn your stripes. That happened a lot in Japan in the early days too when I started with FMW. It happened in WWE. I mean, Bob Holly would beat the shit out of you, JBL, all those guys until you gain their respect. So by the time you got to CMLL, Arena Mexico, it wasn't as bad because those guys were the big name guys.
Yeah.
So, and Paco always booked me in the top half of the card, so I didn't have to deal with it too much. But then when you went to the outposts and you worked with the Massacres and those type of guys, Piroth was hard for a while too until you finally got his respect because those guys were –
because they went through the same shit.
Right. And I had no problem with that. I came from Calgary. It wasn't a big deal. Right. But you had to earn your stripes with those guys.
But just so the new wrestlers that they've heard about it or maybe they're not sure how bad it was really bad. And you can read Eddie Guerrero's book and he'll go into detail too.
Fuck. Eddie was like that with me the first couple of times I met him. He was a total asshole. So it was just part of it. But that's what I mean. Like going through this and kind of reading some of those names, like I haven't thought of fucking Grand Mark. How about this one? I just opened this. November 5th, 1993. Atlantis Ultimo Dragon versus Black Magic, Emilio Charles Jr., and Mocho Cota.
Remember? He was missing a finger.
I think was that because of fucking mafia or why? I don't know why he was missing.
Not sure, but he was in jail for a very long time.
He would do this because he was missing both these fingers.
Yeah.
So his sign was like Ronnie James Dio, except for he didn't have to do this.
Jimmy Snuka.
He didn't. But he didn't. Right.
No, he was missing two fingers.
He didn't have these fingers in the middle. He had no choice but to do the Jimmy Snuka, Ronnie James Dio. Yeah. And so you're always wondering, like, what's up with this guy, right?
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Other than trying to look like Ariel Helwani, Klein Rock, what do you have to do with it?
I'm trying to get it worded edgewise, but you know.
Are you trying to look like Ariel Helwani, by the way?
Okay, this is an audio podcast, so let Klein Rock ask some questions, intelligent questions about Mexico, which is why he's on here.
So like you mentioned before, more than just a list. You went out and you got other people to contribute to this, and Fredo, a friend of the show from LuchaWorld.com, had his top 10 matches, what he thought were your top 10 matches in Mexico.
Right.
And for him, number one was you versus Apollo Dantes for the World Heavyweight title.
Wow.
Is that what you think is your best match in the history of all your matches in Mexico?
Well, here's something funny. Besides an ill-fated side trip to Tijuana with promoter Konnan, the match with Apollo Dantes, which was in Arena Coliseo, was for the World Heavyweight title. The only time I ever had a match for the CMLL World Championship, and that was my last ever match in Mexico, really? And for CMLL, and it is one of my favorites. It was a great match, and that's why it's funny and interesting to hear other people's opinions that he chose that, because who would even remember that match unless he was actually following it? I mean, it was on TV, but that was, 26 years ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a classic that everyone was talking about for months on end or whatever. It was just a match that we had, but I remember that being a good one for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, and then looking through the history, I mean, I knew that you had feuded and had wrestled in Japan and Mexico with Ultimo Dragon, but you wrestled him a lot. Do you think there's anyone else in that era that you wrestled more than that, or was he probably your greatest opponent, both potentially?
Bro, let me ask you a question, Jericho. Did you ever see when Ultimate Dragon first came to Mexico in a trio, and his name was Acai and another guy called like Naoki?
Acai the beer?
Naoki Sano.
It was 3 Japanese guys, because I remember they were in the Toreo. Bro, that's one of the most incredible trios I've ever seen in my life. And I haven't really been able to find video on them. But did you ever see that trio when he first came to Mexico?
Back then I saw it, but I haven't seen it in a while. Because they're pioneers. That's why. A lot of those guys were pioneers doing all this stuff. I remember when I came up, actually Luther came up with the idea for the Lion Salt, because at that point I was doing the top rope moonsault, and then Silver King started doing it. Right. And I'm not saying I was the first, but he started doing it after I did, because I don't remember seeing anybody but Muda doing it when I was doing it. And I'm not saying that I'm sure there was hundreds of other guys, but I'm just saying at the time it wasn't like it is now when fucking, freaking Lance Archer's doing one for the hell of it. Right. So that's why I started doing it from the middle rope, because I wanted to do something different, because there were so many pioneers there like Acai who were just so far ahead of the curve. They would take a new move like a moonsault and then instantly fucking do like the best one ever or add a twist to it. So just a normal moonsault went out of fashion like that. So you had to try and think of new stuff. But to answer your question, Kevin, because I worked with Dragon in Mexico and in Japan, I'd say up until about 96, he was the guy that I worked the most. And probably even now, because you switch opponents quite a bit, but I probably had at least 50 or 60 matches with him in the first 6 years of my career.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then just one of the other things, what I really like about the book, not only does it have the list, but the appendix in the back, like for the wrestling stat nerd, which sometimes I can fall into that category. Just to have all that data from your career that you tracked with the the win losses and the stars and the how many matches were 3 stars.
I got to interrupt you. Are you one of these guys that follows those accounts where they do the like the tail of the tape of the matches with significant strikes, submissions, and stuff? Do you follow? Are you one of those guys?
No, but
I'm not following. I'm talking to Kleinrock.
Oh, sorry.
No,
he's a stat nerd. You look like the type of person to be into that stuff.
Not so much of that, but I mean, like, I follow WrestleNomics, and I like all the details of the.
WrestleNomics is great. The Brandon Thurston guy.
Yep.
Yeah, he does good stuff.
Yeah. So what happened was at the end. So Alex Marvez really helped me a lot with this, and because basically I had all of these matches, 2,722 of them, written in a binder on. You can see it even at the beginning of the book. You see the actual, that's the piece of paper, the legit real piece of paper that I wrote all this stuff on from 30 years ago, right?
You never spilt anything on that?
No, and I never lost it, and I never, so I just gave it.
That's your whole career thing, and you spilled a Coke on it or something, right?
I just gave it to Marvis, and I said, put this into digital. So he kind of helped me write this, and he came up with this idea of doing the appendix. Now, it's great because there's a pie chart at the back with the career the career win and loss record. And I said, if Bad News Allen ever saw this, he would come back from the dead and murder me because he would think I was such a mark for knowing my wins, losses, and draws. And I didn't know it, but right now I know 52% wins, 45% losses, and 3% draws. Who knows that though, right?
And then also just like the country by country breakdown.
Yeah, countries that I worked, companies that I worked.
What is your record? I want to hear you say the record out loud. 1,419 wins, 1,226 losses. That's Disco Inferno level loss ratio there, and 77 draws. Is what when you wrestle, when you have a ring introduction against one of these AEW guys, like have them do their record like 7-3, opponent with 1,942 wins,
but never admit the losses. Never.
But that's what I mean. Like it's just fun to be able to have this stuff, and I think that's another reason why this is such a cool thing. Because like Tommy Dreamer claims that he kept a list of matches, and then Marvez said, "Oh, did you know you wrestled Jericho in 2008?" He's like, I forgot to write that one down. So like I actually have it all written down. So it was cool to be able to transpose it and be able to find all that information. Like Alex also found out via other things that I have the most cumulative time in the Royal Rumble in WWE history. Now I'm sure next year somebody will be in there for an hour and a half just to kick me off the top. Right. But as of right now, I have almost 5 hours of time in the Royal Rumble. And like you would never know that stuff. And like I said, back in the day, you were a mark if you bought a wrestling magazine that you were in. Bad News. I can't even say what Bad News Allen said once. I'd get canceled for it. But it was basically very derogatory. If you kept the stuff, what kind of sexual proclivity you might have.
Here's the great part about all of this. Not only can you share it, you can monetize it. And there's people that dig that shit.
I mean, this has gone through the roof because once again, I had to self-publish this because when I took I have 4 New York Times best-selling books. When I took this idea to the publisher, he said, it's too much of a niche project. It's not going to sell. And I said, oh, really? Okay. So I went and self-published it myself, and it's gone through the roof. We're already looking at doing a second printing because everybody's been buying it so fast. So that's when people say, when's it coming out in bookstores? It won't be.
Why would that guy? What was the reason behind that? He doesn't think something.
Didn't understand it. Didn't understand the concept.
All you got to do is provide content to wrestling fans, and they'll just like they're completists. They'll buy everything these days.
There's a book behind me. There's a Rush book here. JoJo probably knows it. Of every single, it's called Wandering the Face of the Earth. It's every single Rush gig ever in like a coffee table book. I haven't read every page of it, but it's just cool to have it. Like every gig, every set list, every arena. So as soon as I saw that Rush did it, because Rush has very niche fans too, I knew that I could do the same. So that's the thing. Like, you're not going to find this in bookstores because I did it myself, and it's already at the point where we have to do a second printing, like I said, because so many people were interested in it, and it's only been out for a couple weeks.
That's it.
When are you coming out with the Chris Jericho pinball machines? I'd like to buy one.
real quick, little quick rock and roll intervention list question here. Where do you put Working Man in Rush Rush songs top 5? Is it in top 5?
No, top 10 for me for sure.
Top 10 is 2. Sure. Number 2. It's number 2 for me.
Okay, what's number 1?
Spirit of Radio.
Okay.
You once told me that
Tom Sawyer's number 3.
Okay.
You once told me,
Chris,
that that in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there were like 4 groups that needed to be in there, and I think 2 of them have made it since that day. Right? Who do you remember?
It was probably Kiss and Rush at the time.
You might have said Deep Purple, maybe.
Deep Purple was probably one of the omissions at that point in time too. Now you got to go to the next level: Scorpions, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Motley Crue.
Why aren't groups like that in there?
It's because Rolling Stone is like an old boys club. And they don't like heavy metal. So I mean, Iron Maiden is
kind of like like the Emmys.
Yeah, like the Emmys, but even worse, like Iron Maiden sells out stadiums in countries worldwide to this day, and they've been doing it for 40 years, and they were up for nomination, didn't even get through. Stuff like Motorhead. I mean, how could you not have Motorhead in there who's influenced half the bands that are in there? So,
Right.
and let's put Foo Fighters in their first year. Fuck the Foo Fighters. I mean, great, good for them. But I mean, come on, man. Over Iron Maiden? Give me a break.
What's your take on Rick Boogs?
I hate the fact they changed his name from Bugenhagen, which is one of the coolest names. Like Bugenhagen.
Was that what it was? Rick Bugenhagen?
It was Rick Bugenhagen. That's a cool fucking name, man.
Yeah.
Boog. It sounds like a fucking booger.
Yeah.
I think he's super entertaining, very hyper. And I think he would have a chance to really do something if they would have given him his name of Bugenhagen. I don't think Boogs. I always equate it like if you can say, okay, Chris Jericho, your world champion, Chris Jericho, that would work. Your world champion, Disco Inferno, doesn't work. Same thing with Rick Boogs. There'd be never a world champion called Rick Boogs.
I like the way he introduces himself, though. Rick Boogs.
Terrible.
But we like it.
Reminds me of Boog Powell from the fucking Oakland A's.
That's right.
Have you
Interesting reference because you're not a real big sports fan. You remember Boog Powell? Yeah.
have you watched anything on SmackDown? The Roman Reigns storyline.
I haven't, but I've been reading about it, and that's no surprise because when I was there in 2016, I worked with Roman basically all around the world. I was a heel, he was a babyface, and it's like there's no brainer here. He's you know what Roman is, and I always said this, and he's doing it now. If you just drop the fucking script and just let him be him, he's Cool Hand Luke, man. He's like the coolest cat. He's fucking great guy. Just let him be him, and that's what he's doing now. Obviously, with a heelish slant, which is great. But when he eventually turns babyface, he'll be even bigger than he is now because he's just a cool guy. And now they're letting him do all of this stuff, and it doesn't surprise me that he's killing it because he's that type of performer.
Well, if you get a chance, Chris, you should have somebody give you like the best of like what he's done in the last 6 months. You will love it.
Yeah,
very good.
I'll
stuff.
check it out. Yeah.
Did you watch UFC this weekend?
I did. Watch it.
Let me hear some thoughts. Thoughts on what happened there. Thoughts on the build-up. Thoughts on the build-up. The result, aftermath.
Connor's done, and I think everyone knows it. I think he knows it, and I think the best thing that could have happened is that he snapped his ankle because he would have lost in the second round. Herb Dean almost called it at the end of the first, but he was letting it go because it was towards the end, and it's a championship $1 million fight. Or not even a championship, but it's a $1 million fight. But those elbows in the corner, man, once you get a guy down like that, he's finished. So I think it was actually a stroke of fate that's going to end up making them all more money that Connor broke his ankle because he would have been done in about another 2 minutes anyways. The only thing I would say for Dustin is that if he's going to take a number 4, because I would say go fuck your ass, I'm not doing it, is okay, you want number 4? I want a 50-50 purse split with Connor and see what happens.
Yeah.
If you can get 50-50, take it. If not, see you later, buddy. What's the point? Connor's done.
I don't think he's done.
He's done.
Here's what he's not. I don't think he's done as a combat fighter because I think if it's a broken leg, he'd say, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. He'll just box. He's got a couple money. Here's the most fascinating thing.
He can go into wrestling. I mean, I'm saying is UFC done.
To me, the shame was he was just coming off the heels of being announced as the highest paid athlete in the world this past year. Right. And seeing him at the end of the fight, broken ankle, sitting there, still cutting promos, like getting on bringing the guy's wife into and everything. Yeah. I thought his stock took a tremendous hit. You know what I'm saying? He needs, but he's such a good talker. I think he can talk his way back out of this.
But I don't think his press conference beforehand was all that great. I thought it was almost like a parody of. Let
me tell you, Chris. When he did the before the fight, that last press conference he did, where he came out and he threw the hot sauce and he was talking about his wife and all that. And I thought, wow, here's Connor, who knows that he became big by being with the great one-liners, quick wit, and he wants to bring that aura back. And it was really lame. It was almost like, what can I do to be controversial again? Right. And even Dustin was telling him right there, bro, your shit is weak. Yeah. Your shit is weak. And it was weak. And then, just the fact that after he lost, he didn't have the fucking class to say, look, I lost. And he's trying to make excuses, still talking shit about his wife. I just was like, bro, this is a very sad scene to watch.
Especially when he's talking shit about his wife lying there and he has to get stretched out. If I was Connor, I would have said, for this fucking fight announcement, stand me up. Fucking be a crutch. Put me on your fucking shoulders. I'm not taking this loss sitting down in the corner like a little fucking bitch. He should have stood the best he could and stood there like a man when Herb Dean raised fucking Poirier's hand. Instead, he's in the corner still yelling. And that's, you know what that's like? That's like that little jack off that you fucking knock him out and he's still talking shit. And you're like, dude, you're done.
You're done.
Your nose is broken.
Right. I'm not
You're
even going to
finished.
hit you again.
Yeah, it's not even a fight anymore. Now it's just like, oh, now, come on, dude. Now you're just being sad.
Right.
And to have him say this stuff about his wife as they're walking away. Your wife's still letting me down.
Did you see his wife shot him the finger?
Exactly. I go right up to his face and do this. What's he going to do? Spit
You
on
think
you?
she got that from the best friend's mom?
Sue.
Yes.
Right.
It reminded me at the end of the end of Tyson's career when he kind of finished just sitting against the ropes, because his leg was messed up. That's what it
I
reminded
said
me
the
of.
same thing. It reminds me. And listen, like I said, Connor draws money. He'll draw money in something, whatever. But as fighters, all of us are fighters. Three of us are fighters and two of us are fighter fans. When you reach that point to where it's like, okay, dude, he's hanging on at those strings. When you start going for someone's wife,
right.
It's like, come on, dude. I mean, that's just lame.
After
that's
you just
weak.
got demolished.
Yeah,
right.
that's weak
That's the
sauce, dude.
Chris, let me ask you a question. You down in there in Tampa? I know you're not that huge a sports fan. Are you still a Winnipeg Jets fan? You get the Tampa Bay Lightning down there, 2 straight Stanley Cups and stuff. And you got the Buccaneers, Super Bowl. Are you Yeah, and I saw you at the Vikings game. You're still keeping your roots. You're not going to adopt the Buccaneers or the Lightning as your teams.
Well, the thing is, I have no connection with Tampa. I mean, I live here, but it's not like
no. So say you live there. What's that? I have no connection. I live here.
it's not the same. It's not the same. If the Jets played the Lightning, I'd go for the Jets. So therefore, there's no when I wanted the.
Can't you have a secondary favorite? Like in baseball, I always pick 4 teams just in case my team gets knocked out of the playoffs. I have somebody to watch.
I got you, but I would have liked to have seen Montreal win, not because I love Montreal, because I think Canada could have used a Stanley Cup victory after not having one since 1993. So listen, I love Tampa. Congratulations. But here's what I will say. I do have a connection to the Bucks because I became a football fan since I've been living in Tampa. So I was really excited when Brady came last year, and I was at the Super Bowl this year when the Bucks won.
Where was that picture you got with him? You got a picture at the air. What was that?
I got off. I had a private plane to Jacksonville. I got off my plane. He was getting on his, and we were literally 3 feet apart when we got off the plane, and he pulled up, and I was like
you actually got off the plane the exact same moment, walking down things, and there you are, right as
yes. I walked down. He's standing there, and it's like, hey, dude, hey, what's going on? How are you? Blah blah blah. 3-minute conversation, take the picture and go. And then here's how you become friends. Though we followed each other on Instagram, and now we DM each other here and there. So there you go. which is great because
just get your own private jet. You're running into plenty of famous people.
And the week before, we had a Saturday, Wednesday show. Saturday, I was so fucking drunk that if I would have seen Brady that day, I wouldn't have even noticed. I would have been a dry, hey, Brady. Hey, bro. Yeah. So thankfully, it was 3 days later when I was completely sober, and I could be like, hey, how are you? So there you go. Don't drink before you get on the private plane because you never know who you're going to meet when you land.
Chris, you mentioned the book's not in bookstores, but where can people get it? Jojo.
Thank you. What a true salesman. It's Jericho30.com. That's the only place you can get it, Jericho30.com. And like I said, man, it's gone through the roof because of the uniqueness of it. And I think people are just enjoying kind of leafing through it and finding all of this wacky information. And the one cool thing I'll say, too, is that getting all of the different people, guys and girls, to kind of give their Jericho thoughts. The last day that Brody Lee was ever in AEW, Marva's got a Jericho story from him, and it's actually a really funny one because I worked with Brody for about, I'd say 30 or 40 matches in 2015. I was just doing house shows. And so the last kind of interview that he ever gave was for this book, telling this story. So I take a great honor in that, and I dedicated the book to him and Pat Patterson, but as a result of that. So just a lot of little kind of cool little tidbits and factoids that surround this like that.
All right. So, Chris, I just wanted to say one last thing, bro. It was really cool seeing you in AEW and seeing you backstage in a creative capacity and see how passionate about you are about the things that you do, bro. And it was really cool to see you back there in that capacity.
It was great having you, man. I'm sure you'll be back to do some more stuff. And thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure. It's always a blast.
Anything else that you want to post? Anything you're doing with Fozzy, the Jericho Cruise? Anything that you want to throw out there?
Like I said,
Pinball machine.
Why you got a Fozzy? Why don't you start promoting the early? Don't you have a Fozzy tour coming up?
We have a Fozzy tour coming up September 2nd. Yeah, but you don't want to cross the streams. Right now, it's about Jericho30.com. If you guys want to see the Fozzy tour, that's FozzyRock.com. And everything else, you can just Google it.
All right. Want to thank you very much. This would be a good time to apologize. If you have anything to apologize to Glenn for, this would be a great time.
Time out. Time with this. Somebody told me recently before you came on that you listed your 10 favorite opponents.
In WCW.
My top 10 WCW opponents. And Disco Inferno, a great house show opponent. Disco knew exactly who he was in the ring, and we always had fun. That's on page 119.
You take that as an apology?
Is that a replacement for the apology, which I never received?
Well, I don't know if it's really. I'd say it's more of a carrot. It's a carrot dangling in front of you. So you think you're going to get the apology, but not quite. Not yet.
The Charlie Brown football thing.
And keep in mind, your Disco Inferno's in there with such luminaries as Prince Iakea. So there you go.
Those are some of your favorite matches, Prince Ikea.
There were some good ones. I mean, WCW, I had favorite opponents in Mexico, Japan, WCW, WWE, AEW, etc.
Do you have a list of least favorite opponents?
Somebody I do have my.
Let me give you this. Somebody asked me this the other day. My least favorite opponent, right, was Beefcake. Had a few matches against him, and I've never wrestled a guy that forgot as many things when we went out there that we talked about in the back. He just got
I wonder why.
Who's your worst opponent ever?
I don't know. I have my top 10 duds in here.
All right,
but I can't find them. I remember.
Give us one dud.
Julio Sanchez was one of them. Remember Julio Sanchez?
Is that Julio De Niro?
That's Julio De Niro. It is
only because I separated my shoulder during the match. But I think it's maybe Cyclope might be in there. There's a couple duds.
All right, Chris. Thank you very much, man, for coming on and promoting your book and for being on Keeping It 100. Boom.
Boom. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Peace.
All right. I'm out of here, too.